recorded.
My name is Valerie Mihalek. I live at 119 Hillborn Drive in Newtown Township. This is my daughter Elizabeth, who is a student at Newtown Middle School. I know you've received many emails from myself along with many of my neighbors from the Newtown Walk community about our pedestrian crosswalk, which is actually a mid-block crosswalk. It is not in an intersection. And many of us have experienced near hit experiences there. We actually have someone here that will speak whose husband was actually hit trying to move his two daughters out of the way. Since our advocacy this past July, which we've started as a community, we do appreciate some of the measures that you've taken with extra signage, but I do want to say that the pedestrian refuge that was implemented, that was not something that was brought to our attention, with all due respect, is useless. It has actually created more confusion to motorists. I live at the front of the community, and as motorists approach this crosswalk, the pedestrian refuge, although it is visible, depending on the time of day with the sun glare, motorists don't know what to do. I witnessed a man the other day go in there with a baby in a stroller as a police officer was coming out of his car from the cemetery that was parked to mark speeding, and they almost got hit in the refuge area. The refuge area is at the same level of the street. Most pedestrian refuge are lifted, they're elevated and on a sidewalk. So for children in particular, the children sitting right here, to stop there midway to wait for a car to stop is just not safe. It is actually right in the turning lane to turn into Newtown Walk. I have mentioned multiple times to the supervisors about funding. I've been on John Mack's calls, which I appreciate that he has them, the Meet Mac Mondays, for residents to be on and voice their concerns. And on the website, as my husband mentioned earlier, there is the ARPA funds. $550,000 of the ARPA funds is allocated for the Lower Dolington Historical Trail, which the crosswalk falls under. So our request all along has not been for a pedestrian refuge. It has been for some type of blinking light. And one of my neighbors will discuss different options for that and why something like that is needed instead of just having a pedestrian refuge. The other request that we continue to make is to have the speed limit reduced to 25 miles per hour. On the other side of the cemetery where Penn Street is, it is 25 miles per hour. The problem is, as motorists are leaving the borough, they see the increased speed limit of 35 miles per hour, and they basically put the pedal to the metal, and by the time they're increasing as they go up that slight hill there, which is where the blind spot is, they're hitting the crosswalk, which is why it's really dangerous. So our request is to keep the speed limit at 25 miles per hour from the borough all the way to the traffic light where Lower Dolington intersects with Newtown-Yardley Road. I don't want to take a lot of time because we do have the children here that wanted to share their scary experiences in the crosswalk. I know there's a lot of issue with pedestrian safety, so we do appreciate your taking the time, and we do request that this be put on the agenda for the next meeting, and we would like some answers as to funding. We are also working with Representative Warren's office. I know he's been in contact with many of you about grants that he's looking into, but honestly, I think we can start with the ARPA funds with the $550,000 that is allocated for the Lower Dolington Trail. Do you want to share, Elizabeth, what you've experienced there?
Sure. Hi, my name is Elizabeth Mihalek. One of the experiences that I've actually had at the crosswalk was me and my friend Bryce were coming back from walking into town from our school, and there was this car that was coming super fast, and when we were going across, the car didn't stop for us, so we had to go back before we actually got hit by the car because the car was not stopping for us and the car didn't see us. Another one was basically I was just trying to cross with my bike, and no one was stopping for me, and whenever I would try to cross, people would just speed, and I just feel someone can severely get hit there, so it's not a good area to cross because everyone's just going really fast. So yeah.
And we were told by the police department that state law is, in order for a motorist to stop at a pedestrian crosswalk, the pedestrian actually has to move into the crosswalk. Is that true? So to teach that to a child, right, to say, okay, go into the crosswalk and pray that, they're gonna see you, is a very dangerous situation. This crosswalk is very unique to all of the other ones heading into the borough because it's not in an intersection. The other thing that I just wanted to mention is one of the neighbors in my community had mentioned to me, has there been any discussion about taking the crosswalk out altogether, adding a sidewalk in front of Newtown Walk and where the actual crosswalk is with Newtown-Yardley Road and, is it Elm Street? North Elm. On the north side, move the crosswalk there. I don't know what the cost factors would be to do something like that, who would maintain the sidewalk. But I'll let my neighbor, Greg Zukowsky, who's done a lot of information and who has also emailed you, speak to that. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Good evening. I'm Greg Zukowsky. I'm a resident of Newtown Walk. I was past president of the HOA, on the HOA for too many years. It's my second time. First time I actually thanked the Board of Supervisors, Manager Lewis and Supervisor Davis for all the assistance that we received during transition. But I did want to, comment on what Valerie was talking about. I sent a pretty detailed email to the Board of Supervisors on the 13th of October. And Valerie was talking about speed limits, but I had the engineer approved plans, which were from 2006, reviewed 2007. A lot of time has passed. Walden Court has moved in with 60 units. We have 102 units, average 2 vehicles per unit. You've got a lot of vehicles, a lot more traffic than we had before. I talked about coming from the borough, going into the township, and I also sent the drawing indicating that there is an 11-foot change in elevation and a radius. Now, when you stand at North Elm at the Sunoco station, looking up, you can barely see the crosswalk. And the biggest issue is you can't even see the curb coming from there. So as you're coming up, you're coming up the grade. The speed limit changes about 60 yards before the crosswalk from 25 to 35. So I don't want to take a lot of time. I addressed a lot of these issues in the email. Also, coming from the opposite direction, from the bypass, you're at 45 miles an hour. Once you pass Headley, it changes to 40, and like another 40 yards at Ricky Steele's, it changes to 35. You have a 6-foot increase in elevation and a more pronounced radius. So I'm saying that when you look at the plans, we have a line of sight issue. We also have the radius issue, and respectfully, I'm asking if we could put this on the agenda, as I had a long conversation with Supervisor Mack, and I received Chairman Fisher's email. And talking in Chairman Fisher's email and talking with Manager Lewis this evening, we totally understand that you have to be in a crosswalk. I've been in there many times, and you'll stand, the cars whiz by. So it is very important, and I really respectfully ask that we put this on the agenda for further detail because there's been too many incidents. Thank you very much, and I'd like to ask Tracy Bowen and Sydney and Chloe to come up.
Hi, how are you? Tracy Bowen Tobin. I am also a resident of Newtown Walk. My twin daughters, Sydney and Chloe Tobin. We are here, of course, reiterating everything that's already been said, but unfortunately we are a family that has been affected by it. My husband was crossing the street with my girls. He was hit by a car. Fortunately, he was able to throw them out of the way so that they were spared, but he was in fact hit. He was on a bike. Thankfully, he just experienced scrapes, bruises, nothing serious, thank goodness. His bike was totaled. But again, the driver of the car that did hit him was kind enough to stop. He sincerely apologized. He repaired the bike, paid for the repair, and he explained to us that he was unable to see anything because of the glare. He was coming from the golf station, coming into the borough. He said the sun glare was so bad, I couldn't see at all. Didn't even see them standing there. And he just said, I honestly, he's like, I just didn't even have any knowledge of people crossing the street. So we really believe that a blinking light, something that it would be in the sight line, would really be helpful to get a driver's attention. Everything that's been done so far, which we really appreciate, is on the ground, and it's kind of hard to see whether, we have the new signage being there, saying a pedestrian crossing, and also this refuge. It's kind of confusing, and a driver isn't necessarily looking at that. And then just to further that, we did have our bus stop there as well, and having the kids get off the bus, we have to cross the street. Cars don't stop. They never pay attention to a bus, unfortunately. We've had far too many incidences where they've almost been hit again crossing the street. We have moved the bus stop to the lower Dolington entrance. Unfortunately, that's been worse because the speed limit is higher there, and they're coming down a hill a lot of times. We've requested to have that changed back because of that situation. But again, being a family that has been directly affected by it, we strongly urge you to consider a blinking light, and we thank you very much for your attention to this and all you have done so far. So we hope to keep the momentum going. It's really an issue for all of Newtown, not just our neighborhood. This is a main crosswalk to get into the borough for so many residents of Newtown. And that's what makes this living here also so wonderful. You can walk right into town, and we're hoping to make it just safer for everybody. So thank you. Thank you very much.